This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
All right. How you doing, Ira? How you feeling?
You know what? It's all a matter of timing. If I would have done Monday, it would have been awful. I did Tuesday morning instead, a little Christmas Eve show. Feel a lot better after the Nets game. I'm still not so sure, Big O, this sting is going to go away that quickly after what happened in Orlando on Saturday. But as you would use, to use your phrasing, here's a beautiful thing. They're right back in Orlando on Thursday. So if you want to make amends and you want to make things right, you'll have the chance when they go back to the Kia Center on Thursday. Still a bitter taste. I have, in 37 years of covering the Heat, never witnessed anything like I saw in that fourth quarter on Saturday night.
Yeah, I know, 37-8. I was watching it. It was just, again, whatever. They are what they are. Before I get into all of that, Drew Smith, man, I mean, this kid, can he get a break? I mean, just a shame. You watch these young men that are trying to just keep a dream alive, and they're kind of like on the fringe of the NBA rosters, and he looks like a good kid overall, and he's working hard, and it's just one injury after another, one bad break after another. How bad is this one?
The MRI is going to come out later, but the thought in the locker room was not good. No bueno. It looked like an Achilles based on the fact that it was a non-contact injury. That would be season ending. There's so much at play here, Big O. He was within days, 4 or 5 days, from getting a standard contract that would have tripled his salary, guaranteed for the season. Now, because of the luxury tax and all the horrible things about the money, he can't get that. But not only that, there's a chance, and you talk about the cruel world of professional sports, the Miami Heat might have to cut him. Release him from his 2-way contract. He'll get that money because of the injury. He'll work behind the scenes in the arena, just like he did last year after that misstep on the court in Cleveland. And, you always use this phrase, Big O, it's a business. And this will be another sort of cruel sign of that. There is no workaround when it comes to the luxury tax, when it comes to the salary cap. Yes, they can get a disabled player exception, but that money's going to count. Drew's money would have counted if he would have gotten shifted to a standard deal. So, there's the personal side, and Eric Spoelstra was very open, very deeply concerned after the game. And there's also the personnel side, and that's Andy Ellisberg and Pat Riley and Adam Simon finding out a way to get another point guard on this roster, whether it's Isaiah Stevens from the Skyforce in the G League, whether it's a veteran like Dennis Smith Jr., who's sort of been lobbying for a Heat job ever since he's been available on the free agent market, whether it's Elfrid Payton. So I don't want to put everything ahead of what really matters here. But it's just awful because this kid, anyone who's met him, is a good kid, the good soldier who's done anything and everything to make it in this league. He'll be back. At some point, somehow, some way, he'll be back. But damn, you talk about the life going out of a building. You talk about a deflating moment. That's what happened in the first half against the Nets.
Yeah, no, I felt terrible for the kid. It just kind of killed the vibe of the whole thing, and
absolutely,
and it was just and again, just you feel for these kind of young men that are kind of hanging on to their dream, and you just give them a break, bro. Just a life, give him a break. He's already had a couple of these injuries in the past. He doesn't need another one of these.
2 major knee injuries, 2 major rehabs, and you know what? I don't want to say we talk about the jerks. I don't want to go that far, but there's the arrogance of players in this league, whether it's taking time off, whether it's asking for more money, whether it's acting out, whether it's trolling. And then you get someone whose spirit is so toward what we remember about the game before there was social media, before there was look at me and endorsements and all that, who just played the game to play the game. That's what Drew Smith is. He really is old school. He really is an old soul, and he really is a throwback. And it really, I didn't, cut back on my words when I posted my blog last night. This sucks. It absolutely sucks.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to get to that first, because he deserves it. And it's a sad story that these are the moments in sport that really are just brutal to watch, because some people deserve good things to happen to them, and Drew seems like that's the guy. By the way, same story's happening at Inter Miami. His name is Ian Frey. Same story, two ACLs.
So I was
And
watching the game. Yep.
you saw the third one this year, and he was devastated. And when I saw Drew last night, all I thought about was Ian Frey. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, bro, these kids, man. And they're both.
This is the other leg for Drew, so it's not the same knee that's twice been surgical. But you know what? When you see a player's wife meet him in the tunnel leading into the locker room, that's when you know immediately they both knew that something was very, very wrong. And my gosh, on the eve of Christmas Eve, ahead of the holiday season, at a time when he's never played better at all in his career, when he received his second NBA start, first of the season on Saturday, and then this. I mean, damn, sports can be cruel, not just because of the wins and losses and the results and the final score. Yeah.
By the way, the Heat need him.
Yes,
the Heat need him.
Yes, very much so. Because you know what, Big O? Now to get back to sports. Because you know what, Big O? Here's the reason they need him. They have the supposed answer to the position at backup point guard, but Terry Rozier hasn't been it. He hasn't been the thing. Matter of fact, look at last night. Terry sits out with the knee issue. The Heat play a very strong game. They get a solid game from the rest of their rotation, so that becomes an issue. I mean, on one hand, we can sit here and talk about, okay, without Drew Smith, where are they going to go? What are they going to get? They have Terry Rozier. He should be the guy. Okay, Tyler goes out. Terry comes in. You continue that way. He's not the defender. He's not the playmaker. He doesn't have that gritty and griminess you need on a second unit. So on one hand, the Heat have their answer. They just got to get more, and they have it from Terry. He did score 23 in Orlando on Saturday. He got his offense going. But completeness and what the Heat need, Drew Smith is more of a heater than Terry Rozier is. Maybe that turns around. I think they've got to go to the market. They've got to find something else. They've got to rejigger this roster. And here's the deal. Excuse me?
Well, see, now that you mentioned that, that kind of leads to I was going to ask you about what happened on Saturday.
Sure.
And I'm going to go back to what I've been harping on. Jesus Christ, folks, you need to completely reset this damn franchise. You need to take 8 steps back, whether you like it or not. We know you're not the Marlins, but guess what? You're going to have to do some of that kind of stuff where you need to really, and I know it's against their DNA, but if they're ever going to go forward, if they keep trying to just plug the hole in the dike, it's just not enough. They don't have what it takes. And Saturday night was another example of the super role player and the other guy that you want them to be, those guys. And they're just not those guys, and they never will be those guys. So it's just kind of frustrating to me. If you're the Heat organization and you look at what's going on, you have to understand you have not done good enough in the front office. You cannot ask that man on the court to squeeze blood out of water or something. I don't know, a wine out of water or whatever. I don't care, whatever it is. It just, there's a realization to where you're headed, dude. And look at your star. He's out again. His tummy hurts. I mean, it just, this guy's out for himself. He's not really for the team. Man.
I will say this, though. It's not a Marlins comparison for this reason. I don't believe you have to take it down to the studs, which the Marlins do for finances.
But, some elements of that is what I'm saying.
And I think you have to make a choice. And obviously the choice is a Jimmy choice or a Tyler and Bam choice, because if you get rid of Jimmy, you're going to get more support for Tyler and Bam with cap space, with draft choices, with a chance to rebuild it back up. So first, what you have to do is you have to have column A. Bam and Tyler, are they good enough? You've spoken about that. Column B, Jimmy Butler, is he worth it? You have spoken at length about that, including the first contract.
I don't have a problem with Bam as long as you go and get the stars next to him.
A trade of Jimmy can open up those options. So I think what you first have to do is you have to say to yourself, column A, Bam and Tyler, column B, Jimmy, which are we moving off of? Then you can work with the remaining components and build around. If you trade Jimmy Butler and you can get not even a plug-in piece now, draft choices, salary cap space, future capital, you could make it work. Remember, you're talking about guys who are 27 and 25. You can still get them something for productive periods of their career.
Sure.
There's other people who want to win now, get rid of the role players, bring in someone to support Jimmy. Not in favor of that at all. I think these last couple of games have shown you the reliability. Let's look at one thing here, Big O. Jimmy Butler has missed 7 games this season. 4 with an ankle, 1 with the knee, 2 with the stomach ailment. Plus, twice this season, he has gone out in the first 7 minutes, the 7-minute mark in Denver when he had the ankle, and then we saw Friday against the Thunder with the stomach. So all of a sudden, we're up to 9 basic games. There's been no Jimmy out of 27. I'm not great at math. You're not great at math, but that's a third of the season. That's 1/3 of all the games. So for all that we were talking about needing Jimmy more and seeing more, and he can't miss 20% of the schedule, he's basically missed 33% of the schedule right now with no clear sign of that changing or him wanting to change that. That's when I say to myself, you've got to do something. You've got to move on. But here's the deal. You speak about it in our Accurate Pembroke Pines report every week. Other teams see that also. And they say, well, yeah, we could use Jimmy in Denver, in Phoenix, on our team. But we need him all the time. We can't have him miss a third of the games also. So you pointed this out when he first signed the extension. You pointed this out when I was in Summer League this summer. The longer you wait on Jimmy, the more questions you could run into. When you and I started our Accurate Pembroke Pines reports at the start of the season, there were 2 thoughts. Let Jimmy be great. Let him become a great trade asset. And then make the move when you can. And there was a point when it was trending that way. And remember, even last Monday, the big triple-double he had. 35 points, 19 rebounds, 10 assists. And then it turns the other way. So we always talk about sell high and buy low. The Heat might have missed their sell high window on Jimmy Butler, whether it was this summer, whether it was the start of the season, whether it was when he was actually playing at the start of the season. I do wonder about the true valuation now. Now, his agent Bernie Lee will tell you he's still a maximum guy and he wants $150 million over the next 3 years on an extension. But he's got to do something in these next 4 to 6 weeks before the February 6th trading deadline. So as much as Orlando Alzugaray of the Orlando Alzugaray show might be fed up with Jimmy Butler, you know, Big O, you need some greatness from Jimmy in these next 6 weeks.
And that's what I was going to ask you. Does he want to get out? Does he want that $150 million deal? Because he's got to figure it out that you're not getting it here. So do you want to go through another year of, okay, you'll get your $50 million next year, but you're just going to do the same shit you've been doing the last couple of years here, and you got to go through it all? Or do you want that 3-year extension? Somebody, well, then at one point or another, dude, you're going to have to turn it on. You're going to have to show people for an extended period of time, okay, if you trade for me, this is what I'm going to give you. But he hasn't done that at all, or it's what I say. He can't do that because if he tries to play hard for a certain stretch of time, his body will not be able to try to cash that check that he's trying to write. In other words, to use the Top Gun line. You know what I'm saying?
Here's the problem. One thing that's not going to change, whether it's the stomach or the knee or something else, he's 35 years old. So look at the prove it period that you're talking now, okay? This weekend, the Heat go out and have a weekend back-to-back set in Atlanta on Saturday, Houston on Sunday. They come back after New Year's. They have January 1 and 2 home games back-to-back. They then go on a West Coast trip where they have another back-to-back set at the start, Sacramento, Golden State. So you want him to make a statement in those games, but we're still not sure at 36 if he has back-to-back games in him. And if he doesn't, then he'd have a relatively low 15 back-to-back games. But it's still 15 games. You can't say 10 more times this season, Jimmy is not going to play 1 of 2 games. That would be 10 more missed games. That would be 19 missed games. That would make him disqualified from winning postseason awards and that 65-game threshold, because if you do trade him in the offseason, and it is a sign-and trade, you really would like to trade a player who was at least third-team All-NBA, who got votes for awards, which he would be ineligible before. So we really are at what you've discussed as being at this inflection point right now. Either Jimmy Butler does stuff that you and I are talking in our Accurate Pembroke Pines report for the entirety of January, and then he becomes player of the month for January, or else the value, I do not believe, on the market will be there.
Wow. All right. Just to go over on Saturday, like I what is it about these guys? Well, I mean, this was a moment where Orlando lost its top 3 scorers.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, now we find out that Wagner is out, is done for the year. That's a
Who's
huge
going to be
loss.
done for the year with the injury that Banchero still is out with, so they have that going on. But they did, even shorthanded with a similar roster, go out and beat Boston last night, which shows you they are a tough-ass, hard-nosed, defensive-minded team under one of the most underrated coaches in the NBA in Jamal Mosley, and they persevere like the Heat used to be. Big O, here's what you need. You need SOBs. You need what you talk about. Your PJ Browns, your Grant Longs, your Lonzo Mornings, your guys like that. God
James
bless them.
Posey, baby. Give me a James Posey. Give me a bad son of a bitch, dude. Come on,
Even Anthony
bro.
Mason in his time. You need tough-minded SOBs. Bam's a very nice guy. Tyler's a very nice kid. But that's where you miss Jimmy Butler. Because Jimmy Butler, as 22 was becoming 18, was becoming 14, was becoming 8, would have said, F this, I'm sticking my head down, I'm getting to the foul line to stop momentum, to get easy points at the basket so we can reset our defense. You still need, even though you want to and are willing and think they should trade the MFer in Jimmy Butler, you need to find another MFer. We thought that might have been Jaime Jaquez. He's lost in the sophomore slump at the moment. He is not that guy. Right now, with the veterans they brought in, they don't have that guy. That's what they need to get back to, because in Orlando, when you sort of said to yourself, okay, which one of you MFers is going to take control? No one took control. And they kept shooting jumpers, and they kept fouling, and they didn't stand their ground at the moment of truth. You need that guy. Matter of fact, I'm going to throw it back at you right now. I'm going to take Jimmy Butler out of the equation. I know you hate getting put on the spot with quick questions, but besides Jimmy Butler, who is the toughest guy on this current Miami Heat roster in your view? Besides Jimmy Butler.
Haywood Highsmith.
And if a guy who averages about 6 points and sometimes doesn't play at all is your toughest, most hard-nosed player besides Jimmy Butler, maybe that says all that needs to be said about the composition of the roster.
But you're going to disagree with me on that? Haywood Highsmith has got a little toughness to him. I like him.
He does, and he has the grit. I think Hillel Ware could get there, but he's way too raw, and he's way too young. I really thought Jaime was going to be that guy. I thought he would be the guy who would give it to you in the fourth quarter and get to the line like he did last year, but he's going through a very, very rough patch right now, and he can't be that guy right now. That's what they miss, is they miss that MFer.
I'm glad you told me about all this MF stuff, because I made an interesting comparison to the Miami Heat. And, it's interesting that I said earlier, hey, they got to have some elements of the Marlins. Reset, really. And the rest of us should be super patient with them because they've given us more than enough winning for a quarter century. And we got to stop acting like spoiled brats here, okay? We should have a little patience with the Heat, in this whole mess that they're in. But I think the Heat need to be careful. I think the Miami Heat are becoming the Miami Dolphins. Let me walk you through this. Let me walk you through the comparisons. When Briley got here, up until the big 3, it was stars, it was toughness, it was grit, all of that. Riley to Spo and all those eras. And it reminds me a lot of when I was a kid watching the Dolphins from the 70s right up until the early 80s. And then we go off and we make the playoffs into the bubble. And then we go and we make the playoffs in a strike-shortened season. And in those 2 years, we actually maybe think we're better than what we really are because things fell into place for us. The Heat are the organization built to sustain themselves in a bubble because that's who they are. The Dolphins with Don Shula can sustain themselves in a strike-shortened season because of the turmoil and everything. Shula's the guy to right that ship. Then a couple years later, you get a kid named Marino, and the world falls in your lap, and you get lucky, and you get to the Super Bowl, and you find out you don't belong anywhere near the field next to San Francisco, because during that streak of the early to mid 80s to 95, the NFC won 14 of 15, as you know. They dominated. The AFC was mediocre in those days, and that Miami proved it. Miami gets to the finals with Denver. They get smoked because they don't belong there. But they had every break in the book, just like the Dolphins. An easy conference? Well, yeah. You got Embiid injured. You got Giannis injured. Everything fell into place. A couple years later, we're with Marino. We think we're better than what we really are. Heat fans, 5 years into this run with Jimmy and everything that went on, it was fantastic. But we think we're better than what we are. The Miami Heat better be careful. They're falling in to a Miami Dolphin rut. So they better get themselves out of this rut, because this rut is what we're in now. Players that aren't good enough. Players that aren't the dogs that used to be the dogs of the 70s. The ones that used to win at the line of scrimmage on offense and defense for the Dolphins. For 40 years, the Dolphins don't win at the lines of scrimmage anymore. Now what I'm watching, the Miami Heat are no longer producing the stars they used to get, or either developing them or trading for them or whatever it is, because of the way the system has changed. But the Heat have got to be careful. And Heat fans, I'm noticing we are becoming those early 80 Dolphin fans that are kind of delusional. I'm just saying the similarities are there, and there's a trap. And I hope that the Heat don't fall in it, because the Dolphins have been in that trap for 40 years.
And I think another comparison to our market and our teams is the toughness factor we spoke about. And I'll point to a degree to your Dolphins. Let's look at the tough SOB that Calais Campbell is that they brought in. At his age, pushing through when some others are quitting and giving his all. You need that kind of guy. Let's look at the Stanley Cup champion Panthers, who brought in the toughness of Kachuk instead of the zippity-doo-dah of Huberdeau. God bless him in his assist, but he was a different player, and whose leading man, Barkov, became this tough SOB in front of our very eyes and wouldn't give in to just the pure skill that he arrived with from Finland and became more of a player.
Kachuk brought out more personality.
That's what you need also. So, Big O, I don't disagree about star talent and developing, but there also has to be that SOB-ness in your power rotation from the tough guys. When you get guys like that, other guys follow. They pick up on the scent. They get going also. I think some of that's missing. How crazy is it?
Off the bench.
Yes.
You're like 9th or 10th guy and is a tough son of a bitch. And
hardest working, meanest.
Toughest.
Nope.
That's when you're a great franchise. When the guy all the way in the back end of the roster can be put on the floor to go lock somebody down.
Fully agree. Yeah. We need more of that. I agree.
I mean, it's just it has changed the Miami, and it's, in a way, it's not their fault, and it is their fault. It's not their fault because the system changed. The way things you have to do, it has to change, and you have refused to change. So now you have screwed yourself, and you're not willing to take those steps back. That Riley is just, it's like against his DNA. And dude, I admire the shit out of that. That worked for a while.
Sure.
But it doesn't work now. And unfortunately, you got to rip the scab off and really take a step back so you can get what you need down the line, man. Because, I can tell you all I want about Bam being a super role player, but actually, he's actually super important, because in a championship team, he would be the perfect guy to complement the two stars.
As a number 2 or number 3, probably, yes.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's why. So don't ruin what you have in him, which you're already doing it, because you never got the two. Well, you didn't get the other star next to Jimmy, unfortunately.
Right.
Once you got Jimmy, you were on the sands of the hourglass were on, and it was a short one, and you had to get it within that window, and they failed to get it.
And I'll give you 2 words of why it all fell apart and went to crap. 2 words. You ready?
Yeah.
Kyle Lowry. They made their run. They tried to find it. They gave in to Jimmy. They brought in his friend. They spent buku bucks on it, and it didn't work. So not only do you have to try to get the player, obviously you have to get the right player.
Yeah. And the Dolphins are going through that now. They got such a finesse team that they now have ruined that window because now the Tua money is going to kick in. And as you know, you follow sports, that just cripples your team once the quarterback salary.
Once you get to that cap number and you get capped out, you better have your team. That's what the Heat are running into right now with that first apron and almost second apron. That's why they have to tear down to build back up. I agree.
Is there are you getting any vibes that they're like looking in the mirror going,
yeah,
hey guys?
I am. And I think something will happen. And I think there will be a special report on the Acura Pembroke Pines report coming up before the trade deadline about something pretty big with this team. I disagree with the outsiders. I think there will be a shakeup.
Good. I'm glad. They need to do it. It's good for them. And we all should be, media included, but especially the fans, should take a ton of patience with them. They've given us more than enough, but you have to understand where they're at, and they got to take a couple of steps back to take a couple of steps forward. All right, what else you got going on the Sentinel?
Keep an eye out on my Twitter and sunsentinel.com. We will have the Drew Smith update. That MRI will basically tell us, unfortunately, a story we don't want to hear. Also have a story just how Spoelstra said, I'm glad we had this 2-day break. Let's exhale a little. They have a huge stretch coming up. They go out to Orlando on Thursday, games in Atlanta on Saturday, Houston on Sunday. This is when they have to show if there is more there, or if we keep using those two words, play in, play in, play in. We'll have a much better sense, I think, after this weekend.
Pat Riley play-in. No, it's Pat Riley championships, banners. That's what it's supposed to be.
If I'm Pat Riley, I'm boycotting play-in games at Kaseya Center. That's how I make my statement.
Yes, please. That's above Pat Riley and Mickey Harrison. Let's go. We're better than that. All right, follow them on Twitter at Ira Heatbeat. Better yet, subscribe to the South Florida Sun Sentinel. Happy Hanukkah, sir. We will catch up next week.
And happy holidays to everyone, and we'll do our pre-New Year show next week. Thank you, Big O.
You got it. There we go. Our Acura of Pembroke Pines, Miami Heat, and NBA report. And get on down there to 15601 Pines Boulevard, just off of I-75 in Pines. Larry Schlossberg, Pat Nasto, Tony Stampone. Just some amazing people doing some amazing work. And when we talk about an amazing vehicle, we are going to talk about the ZDX. Get electrified. Over 300 miles to the full charge, and you get to take the charger home with you too. It's got some really cool plans also, so you can have the charger. You never have to go to a gas station again. Isn't that a beautiful thing? You don't have to touch that dirty ass handle that everybody else has been touching. Get on down there, check it out for yourself. They got some amazing deals. The lot is loaded with brand new vehicles, certified pre-owned vehicles. The ZDX right now, $449. The lease feature 0.9% financing for 72 months. The MDX is in stock. The Tech, you can get $10,000 off MSRP. The RDX, my wife is still driving her RDX, 2025 model. You can get it for $399. The Integra, $339, 3.9% financing for 60 months. And of course, if you own or lease a vehicle, get it serviced there. Mike Chan and Jordan Ferber, they do an amazing job at Craig Zinn's Acura of Pembroke Pines.